All right, welcome back to Stillness Everyday podcast. Today I've got Peter on. Peter is a holistic health practitioner, is that what you'd call it?
Yeah, I'd call it holistic health practitioner, CHEK practitioner. I'm an anatomy trained structural body worker, yoga teacher. Depends what hat I feel like putting on for the day.
That's how I feel sometimes. Just came back from Harvey Bay and construction site and putting a podcast hat on. So let's start talking. I'm really interested to talk about the yoga and the CHEK and how they correlate, because I've heard mixed things from people who are obviously fanatical about yoga and then people who just kind of really don't agree with any of it. Let's talk a bit about your background and how you got to kind of CHEK, and you're obviously a yoga teacher trainer first, I imagine.
Yeah. So long story short, I was actually electrician in the oil and gas industry.
Oh, no way.
So I was working as electrical and instrumentation technician for pretty much the number one company in Australia. And it got to a point in my life where it was like I was earning so much money but didn't know what to do. And I had this innate calling, I guess you'd say, where it was like, I need to go do something else. And for some reason, I was called to go and train under Lauren. So she ran Zenko Yoga at Bedina and Maroochydore, Noosa and Blah Blah at the time. They had put out like a yoga teacher training ad, and I was like, man, this is it. I got to do it. And just essentially dove straight in. So that was like 6 months, every second weekend, 200 hours.
Yeah, right.
Like life-changing experience.
Lauren, it's funny you say that, because Lauren actually really helped my early stage of like moving into a, just spirituality, because I was started at Bedina probably 2012, I reckon, or 2013. And like I used to stay back after yoga and just ask her all these questions, and yeah, she was good.
She was a special human. Yeah, special human. Yeah, it was, I think like even after everything that had happened last year, I think like the word that comes to mind is just grateful that I got the opportunity to actually train under her. Like you hear people that go through the yoga teacher training and it might just be the cookie cutter approach where they jam the students in, you go for like that 30 days, it's an intensive. But the way that Zenko had designed it was essentially every second weekend. So it allows you that space to actually go and grow. You need time to integrate the teachings, all of the ethical principles that come along with yoga, like the yamas and the niyamas, things like contentment, santosha, discipline, which translates to tapasa parigraha, which is like non-attachment to all things, satya, which translates to truthfulness in all aspects of our life. You know what it's like to change, like it takes a long time to change. And the way that she had structured her yoga teacher training was like, in all forms of growth, I guess you'd say, where you can actually go and you can embody the practice. And what I'd done is, back to, I guess, like how we got started, I'd quit my job working for this particular company. So I was all in. I was all in on yoga. It was the only thing I was doing. I was sitting pretty well in terms of in terms of like, cash from crypto and things like that. So my life was literally training yoga. You're talking morning, afternoon, sometimes lunchtime. Sometimes I'll be doing a double in the evening. It was a full embodied year of the practice. At the end of that year, I became a teacher, and there was only one position in Zenko available. So I just decided to just be like, you know what, like I'm pretty nervous teaching. Like it's a big thing. You're teaching a spiritual practice that's 5,000 years old, that, translated from India. I'm just going to do it and I'm going to go for it and I'm just going to see what happens. And that then essentially led me into CHEK. And that led me from working with Callan, owner of Corrective Culture, who I now work out of their space, which has essentially been a dream come true. And my job now, I guess how we tied onto that is I tie the two worlds together for people. I tie the yoga philosophy into holistic health. So the 6 foundations when I'm working with people on an everyday basis now are thinking, breathing and movement for our yang principles, and hydration, nutrition and sleep for our yin principles. One of the major pillars that I always come back to is any person that has ever come and seen me, they're out of balance within one of those foundations. So CHEK, for those listening, stands for Corrective Holistic Exercise Kinesiology, which just translates to the development of the human being, in my opinion.
Cool. That's awesome. Before we go a bit further, I want to touch on the principles of the yoga, because I haven't heard them before. I mean, I probably have, but the non-attachment and all of those things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So these are, in yogic philosophy, there's a book called the Yamas and the Niyamas. and their internal and external observations about oneself. So a parigraha means essentially non-attachment. So that could be you come into this world as a pure being, and along the way we attach ourselves to coffee, to alcohol, to sex, to drugs, big house, money, all of these things. Yoga teaches you these types of principles to come back to one's true self. Satya is another one. So this is one that resembles, I think, quite well within the yoga community. I'm sure you've heard the saying before, the truth sets you free. So that would relate to how can I act more truthfully in every aspect of my life? Where in my life am I not living my absolute truth? So for me at that point in my life, I was earning more money than I knew what to do with. But I wasn't happy, I wasn't fulfilled. My dharma, or my deepest purpose, as someone would say that comes from the yogic background, wasn't being fulfilled. I wasn't in alignment with who I truly was. So I had to come back to my own sense of my own truth. Contentment, there's a range of different ethical principles that we can come back to. Tapas, which translates to discipline. I mean, I've spoken to you so much before in the past about things like how a man's role in life is to act in a way that requires discipline. And that could be getting up every day early. That could be jumping in a cold plunge. That could be doing the saunas. All of these ethical principles and guidelines, they come back to yogic philosophy. Yeah. So each one of my classes, I taught over 300 classes, I would tie back to only one of these principles. Yeah. And ancient yogis would say you could spend your entire life just trying to perfect just one. And it kind of makes sense. Like when you really think about it, it's like, it's deep.
I suppose the entire practice of Vipassana is it's a life after life challenge of just teaching yourself non-attachment to this reality or the things in this reality. How do they teach in yoga? Like what would be something that you would practice in the yoga practice to practice non-attachment, I suppose. So learning to not give into your cravings for coffee, or if you are, just craving sex all the time or whatever it may be.
Yeah, you bring it into your awareness. Yeah, you become aware of it. It's how consciousness within ourself is really formed. You become aware of your decisions and your choices. So then, if it's a Saturday and we were in the studio and it was 6:30 at night and we'd been talking about all of these principles. So Saturday was oftentimes like philosophy, and then we would dive into like a little bit of a practice where we would split up into little groups and you're teaching little segments, and eventually with the idea of working up to teaching like a whole 60-minute class, you're then embodying that because you're in a classroom full of 30 people. Like I was the only male in my yoga teacher training. There was 26 women, 3 teachers, Lauren being one. How we started this discussion, it was such a transformational journey for me that really led me to doing exactly like what it is that I'm doing now. And it feels right. It feels right. Yoga is like, it's hard to explain to people that haven't gone through the process. It's in some sense sometimes like you're talking to a brick wall, but it's apart from psychedelics, apart from plant medicines, my time in Peru, Thailand, I traveled the world in my 20s. I'd never experienced a practice like yoga that took me that deeply into myself. And which is interesting now because I'm not actually teaching anymore. I'd come to a point in my life where I thought that you could only find consciousness within yoga. And yoga was it, and yoga was the answer to all things. And it's actually not. Yoga isn't designed for everyone. It's not for every single person out there. Sure, there are certain aspects, mindfulness, meditation, pranayama, yeah, sure, but not yoga. Hypermobile people are oftentimes drawn to yoga because they're good at yoga. The people that need yoga are people like me. I'm oftentimes tight. I'm stiff. On what's called a Baton scale. So when clients come in and see me for an assessment, we do a 9-point flexibility assessment to see what they need within their flexibility, stability, strength, and power program. Oftentimes, the people that love yoga don't actually need yoga. They just need aspects of yoga.
Yeah. Before we go into that bit, I want to talk more about the meditation part. Did you meditate or anything prior to being introduced to yoga?
I actually didn't. Yeah, meditation for me it became a part of the practice. Yeah. It became an everyday, 20 minutes a day, like ritual. Like you wake up, you meditate, and then you get on with your day. And it after a while, it becomes a part of you, and you can't recognize yourself without it. And I know I've spoken to you about that before, where it's like you ebb and flow as time goes on. Like there's been times over the last couple of years, like, you know, where I've lost meditation and I've had to go and get it back again. But it's interesting. I was talking to someone the other day, like, in regards to meditation, I'd love to get into the Vipassana and your experience there. But in terms of I don't like to use this word like often, but because it's part of enlightenment that you're receiving when you go into meditation. The earlier gains were a little bit easier. And one thing that I found is the longer that I had been meditating for, the harder it was to access those types again. So the harder I had to work at it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, they would teach you at Vipassana to the moment you start trying to work for that, then you're craving. So you're actually degressing in your meditation because you shouldn't crave any outcome in a Vipassana meditation.
How cool's that?
Yeah.
What was your experience like? 10 days.
Which one?
How many have you done?
I think I've done 3, but I've done a few sits, a few serves, and a bunch of 3 days. It just goes deeper every time. I remember I was talking to a mate a mate that I'm doing semen retention with. Like, a few of us have just agreed to do 100 days, and last time I got to 100 days was last year, and then I did a sit. And it was so much deeper. Like, my practice was more disciplined. Like, every morning I was up at 4. I wasn't missing sits. I was just, you know, sitting for the whole hour or hour and a half. I think I actually sat for 2 hours once consistently without moving. And I was just determined to be there and doing, like, because it's kind of a very militant program. Like, you're up at 4, you meditate till 6, then you have brekkie, then you meditate till 8, then you have, I think, another group sit, and then a break, and then you meditate again till you meditate right up to 11, then you have lunch break, then you have a break, then you meditate till 5, have an hour break, then you meditate till 9 pretty much. So you're non-stop meditating.
That is massive. And what were your major takeaways from the 10 days? Like, if you were to think from like day one when you walk in, only because I talk to my partner about it all the time. Like, she was actually saying to me the other day, like, she's feel as though she's due for another one. And she said to me, like, day 1 to day 10 is unrecognizable.
Yeah, you kind of, it's hard. I'm trying to pinpoint something because every day is different. There was one time I wrote, and like just to read day to day. You're not meant to write, but I might and I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe after you've done a couple, you can, but like I wouldn't do it next time. Just for anyone listening, if you do it. But to see your thoughts change from day to day was interesting.
Definitely. Because you're not eating animal protein in there either, are you? Like, you're completely vegetarian.
That actually, I didn't struggle with my sit when I did 10 days, but when I went to serve it in December, I did really struggle with that. But I also did get concussed like a week before, so I wasn't really sure whether it was the vegetarian diet. But I was bloated all the time, and then I was starting to get dizzy in the kitchen, and I'm like, fuck, I think I've got to leave because I had to sit down while we're cooking. Yeah. When you're serving, you're cooking for everyone. Right. I think day 5 or 6 I had to leave.
What's the story there? How did you get concussed before?
Someone fucking...
Jiu-jitsu?
No, it wasn't. It was construction related.
Right, construction.
Someone pulled a sheet off a wall and then just kind of threw it and hit me.
Hit you? Yeah, shit. No way. No, man, like Vipassana has been on my mind for like quite some time now. I guess the biggest thing going into it that I want is a quite a strong meditation practice. A lot of people, I've got this one friend, right, like he's done 11, and he said to me, like, if I could give you one bit of advice, it's go in with a pretty strong meditation practice if you can, because it's a little bit more of a foundation to walk upon. I guess the only thing that I would struggle with is, like not eating meat for that amount of time.
But I also think you're not burning anything.
Yeah, right. Sitting. Yeah, you're sitting all day.
Yeah. You're almost just, you're fasting from 12 o'clock till 6 o'clock the next day, every day. You definitely notice your bowel movements are fine, perfect. If anything, better.
And do you think that's because you're in such a pure environment where like the outside, the stresses that we currently have within the world, you're not attached to when you're in there? I
think there's a degree of the water's obviously it's rainwater, so you're not drinking it. Not that you would drink tap water anyway, but you're fasting for like that 18 hours, so your organs are resting whilst you're already resting your mind, which is resting your body anyway. So
True.
You're just constantly, your body's just completely relaxed, so it can actually it can work properly.
Yeah, it can do its thing.
Yeah,
and it's a nice call that they I guess give people rainwater, because that's been like such an interesting pillar to work with people. The fact that the general public don't know the power of water, the fact that it's actually like this cup in front of me, like it's living in some sense. Like that's what our body's made out of, and it's cool that they recognize that.
Tap water, I think, is dead though.
It's dead water. Yeah, every cell in our body, every organ in our body, it requires a pH level of 6 and above. If you were to test tap water, so any type of tap water in Australia, it often come back with, well, not only every chemical under the sun, chlorine, fluoride and things like that are unnatural to the body, it would come back at around a 5. So very acidic. Yeah. Very acidic. The body doesn't even know what to do with it. Pure spring water, it's like it makes sense in terms of nature. Like it's how we live for God knows how many thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say back to the meditation question, I probably I agree with you, mate. Like having a practice definitely allows you to go deeper. But the first time you're also learning the practice. So it's like if you were, well versed at Vedic, I don't know if it would have much of an impact on. In fact, what I would recommend is be super disciplined leading up. Like if you have any cravings, like do the cleanse beforehand.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
that would be good.
If you go in extremely disciplined and they say meditate for 2 hours without moving your back and you do it, then you're going to go deeper. Because what I noticed, the main thing that helped my practice is when my body's sore and I just don't give in to the pain. I just observe the pain and eventually the pain leaves and I just, my legs are numb and I don't move my legs. They just stay and I just stay in one position.
And do you feel as though the semen retention helps?
I think so because, I'm noticing now, I'm probably 2-3 weeks in now, and I've noticed just my life's improved dramatically in the last 3 weeks. And a mate of mine who's doing it, he's just always messaging me bro, I'm got more work on than ever and I'm tired, but I can just keep going. I feel 20% more energy than normal.
Yeah, and it makes sense, man, because it's in some sense if you're ejaculating all the time, in some sense you're giving away your energy, you know what I mean? As opposed to you're building it and actually using that and turning that into some type of a creative force. So that makes sense.
If it takes 65 days, I think it's 65, 66, to completely replenish your sperm as a man, because you're normally just replenishing seminal fluid, you're not actually replenishing all your sperm. If it takes 65 days, then really you've got to kind of retain for 60 days to be fully charged up with your life force, you know what I mean?
Well, you did a full year as well.
I did just about a year. I did 333 days or something.
333 still, man. You just got to claim that as a year at the end of the day. So did you, if it takes 65 days then to fully replenish, did you notice much difference then?
I think 90 days is the go. Once you get to 90 days.
90 days,
the cravings go away. You've got that energy. It doesn't get better after that. It's just kind of is what it is after that.
And would you put it in comparison to an ice bath in terms of what it gives you long term? How you sit in the ice for weeks on end, where it might be an everyday practice, or it might be 3-4 days a week.
The ice bath is a very kind of, it's like
a hit.
It's like a hit. Yeah, it's almost like a drug. And then you are good for a while, and obviously it does have good effects. But I feel like this is sustained. It's let's say 2 months ago, my alarm goes off, I'll just snooze it. Now it's 4 a.m, I'm awake.
You're a snoozer.
Yeah, that's what I have been. I have been this last 3-4 months, and that's why I was fuck this, I need to get back on track.
Yeah,
so that's
definitely.
why I committed to it again.
That's cool,
but
man.
now I'm just noticing I'll go to bed even later. Last night was 9:30. Alarm went off It didn't actually go off. I just got up at 3:45.
And is that your general wake up time around that? No?
It's been 5:30.
5:30, yeah, cool.
But all of last year I was up at 3:33.
And what time are you going, if you're getting up that early, what time are you going to bed?
Last year I was going to bed at 8:30.
8:30, yeah. And just feeling good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something special, I think, about waking up before 6 o'clock. Yeah, it's in Ayurvedic terms, I would say it's Vata time. In other words, like the air is quite thin. You would know that even from going deep in towards meditation, right? Like I notice a big difference. Like if I'm meditating at 5 o'clock in the morning and the earth is still, or in the southern hemisphere anyway, compared to like 6:30 and there's fucking cars and the birds are awake chirping outside, it's a tremendous difference.
Yeah.
Tremendous difference.
I think 4 a.m., what did Wayne Dwyer used to get up at 4 a.m., right? Because he reckons I don't actually what he said exactly, but I think it's where most of your downloads will come in then.
Yeah, makes sense. It makes sense. I was meaning to ask you this before the podcast started, but let's get into it now. Are you still training jiu-jitsu?
I haven't since I moved. I went to Europe for a month in June.
Okay.
And now I'm in Hervey Bay.
Now you're in Hervey.
When I get back next month, I'll be
good. Yeah, because you were training here in Nambour for a little bit, weren't you? Yeah, cool.
No, I do want to get back into it. And I was looking at old videos. I was like, fuck, I want to get back there.
Yeah, I need to come into the space. It's I actually just had my third session back last Saturday. So it was nearly a year off the mats for me. You know what's cool as well? You were actually there at that competition when I cracked my rib. Yeah. So actually, while we're on the podcast, have a feel. So that's how it sets now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it sticks out.
Yeah, essentially. I guess for the public, they can see it through the shirt.
But what actually... like what happened? Your rib popped out?
Yeah, well, 10 seconds into the match, the guy tried to pull guard and he kneed me essentially straight in the chest. And I knew it straight away that my rib was fractured. I just didn't know to the extent and the severity. I didn't put my ego aside and I kept fighting. And I'm talking about like pain 10 out of 10. Like if no one was there, I would have been screaming. Anyone that's been through a rib injury before like that, they know that like it fucking hurts, right? Like it's like the most painful thing. You imagine like we have this diaphragm, this breath that lives within us, and it unconsciously breathes 25,000 times a day. And that's having a direct impact on the intercostals and my 7th rib anterior where I'd broken at the front. So 10 seconds into the match, he goes to the takedown, pulled guard, kneed me straight in the chest, and I was like, felt it.
Did you fall on his
neck? Yeah, literally. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, that hurt a lot. And I was like, nah, I think I'm okay. Because, adrenaline's going and like, I got my missus there and I've got my whole team there. And I hadn't competed in like, I think a good year or two. So it was like the nerves were up there as well. You know what it's like when you're competing. It's like jiu-jitsu. It'll really wring those parts of yourself out of you. And I was like, I'm going to continue fighting. I'm going to see how I go. I was 6-0 down and I was getting beaten bad, man. Like it was a competitive fight, but I walk into competitions thinking like this, I've been training since 2009. Like I walk into competitions a lot of times thinking like these guys have no right to beat me. Like I've been doing this since I was like 17.
Yeah.
I was 6-0 down with a minute and a half to go. I come back 5-6, 30 seconds to go. He locked up, I'd say like some type of a fake triangle just to, waste the time. Yeah, buy some time. And, looking back, I don't know why I fucking cared so much because I wouldn't have been able to fight in the finals anyway. And so the buzzer went, the ref raised his hand. I looked over at my team and I was just like, man, I was gutted. I was more gutted at like the loss than I was at the rib at the time because everyone had told me like, oh, you'd be sweet, like 6 to 8 weeks, you'll be back. Went straight to the hospital. I was in hospital. You know what the fucking hospital's like. I was in hospital for about 6 hours until 9:30 at night. CT scan, X-ray. They said, no, you're good. You don't have a fracture. You're good to go home. Don't need anything. Not that I would have taken anything anyway. I was in agony that night, man. I get a phone call the following day and they said, yeah, sorry, we missed it. You've got a pretty big fracture. 3 months goes by and I'm still like in a 9 out of 10 pain. And I'm talking like, I'm not even close to getting back to jiu-jitsu by last Christmas. And I'm thinking, what's going on? Like it's like my one love, jiu-jitsu. Like I love it more than anything. It's like my thing, And I went and seen a specialist and he was like, no, you've actually like damaged the cartilage. So you're probably looking at 3 to 6 months, worst case 6 to 8 if it's really bad. So what essentially happened was the costal cartilage that holds the 7th rib in place, it had moved 3 centimeters. So over the course of the match, it was essentially just getting worse and worse and worse. So this was the pain teacher teaching me a valuable lesson in this regard. I actually had a friend message me the other day as well. He was mid-competition and cracked his rib, and he was like, yeah, man, but I stopped straight away. He's like, I just thought of you mid-match, coach is screaming, and he's like, nah, I've got to call it. And getting back on the mats, it was like, I was saying to Jake the other day in the space, it's been like going through the dark night of the soul the last 12 months. Yeah, it's it's funny. I think sometimes in life when we look back, we like to think that the good times are the times that teach us. But I look at all the times I was traveling the world and when things were going wrong, and matches and competitions when I was younger that didn't go my way. Maybe I think I had to compete for like the first 10 competitions when I was younger, from like 17 to 22 until I eventually won one. I think it's always the hardships that teach us the most. And this was the biggest thing I'd ever been through in my life. This was like, in some sense, like a form of awakening for me. Like, okay, you're in this position, like what the fuck are you going to do about it now? And it taught me patience, and it taught me the ability to surrender, and it taught me the ability to go within. Like, I'm 31 now. I've been training jiu-jitsu since I was 17. The path since breaking my rib essentially taught me, well, this is all you know. This is all you have ever known. Now you have to sit in the quiet and sit in the darkness and go discover who you are without the very thing that you know more than anything. And so that's been the last 12 months. And honestly, man, coming back, like when I put the gi on the other night, and I've trained both since, like gi and no gi, no shit, nearly brought a tear to my eye, because I was like, oh man, like I went through it. Yeah. Like, it's like you got to go through it. Like, the only way out is through, and I sat in I think like a few months ago, I was in like a pretty dark place, like back in May, and I was like, every 6 months I get the calling to go and sit with like some type of plant medicine. Yeah, right. And so this was 6 grams of mushrooms, so 6 grams of psilocybin mushrooms. Partner had gone away for the weekend, so I had the place to myself, and the 4 pillars that you learn when you're in Peru are breath, posture, Icaros, which is the ancestral spirit, and intention. So what is your intention behind what it is that you're trying to do? And I sat with myself, and it took me about an hour to actually bear the courage just to get up. And it was in May when the pink supermoon was on, and we live on the beach, and I was like, fuck, if I could just work up the courage to walk towards that moon, towards that beach as sun was setting. So I think I took them at 4:00. Generally takes about an hour to 2 hours to fully kick in. And the reason it's so important as well that you take those 5 to 6 grams and not dabble in the 2 to 3 grams, in my opinion, is because the ego is totally dissolved. Yeah, you're completely in. And the experience showed me the things that I had to see. It's almost like I had to go through that. Yep. Yeah, I had to go through that. And 8 hours later, because that's really the journey that you're going on with an 8-hour experience. It's like you're going on your own hero's journey in that sense, to go discover and go see the things that you need to see. And so every 6 months I do that, generally one by myself and then one with my partner. It's like a check-in with each other. It's like, it's back to how we started the conversation with yoga. It's like a form of the truth. That's what psychedelics are in their purest form.
Did you meet her? Were you in Peru together?
No, we actually met in yoga teacher training. Oh, cool. Yeah, we met in yoga teacher training. And our first date was actually quite a deep mushroom ceremony out in Kenilworth, just the 2 of us. And we've just kept it going ever since. It's just such a beautiful experience. Like, once you see, and once the veil gets pulled back, it's like now you've seen, now you've seen. I can't imagine my life now without going on that. It's the most difficult thing I do. Nothing scares me more. It's like I said to you before we jumped on this podcast, I'm a little bit nervous, but whatever happens, happens. Psychedelics, and before I go into ayahuasca or DMT or LSD or mushrooms, is like, I'm petrified. Yeah, because I'm not in control. Yeah, I'm not in control. So what will be, and what will be must be.
That's interesting. I don't think I would say when I'm concerned about doing it, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't even have the desire to do it. But the times that I've done it, I've been like really excited to do it. But I do always have that in the back of my mind. I don't know. It is your ego just protecting itself because you're fucked.
Absolutely.
Like, it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's well, I mean, Terence referred to it as food of the gods for a reason, right? It's like you're entering a world that we have no fucking idea about.
Yeah.
No idea about. Yeah. And so every time you go on peak, it's like you have to give up a part of yourself. And that's one thing I really try and instill in clients as well when they come and see me for all of the CHEK work. It's like I can take you to where it is you intend to go, but you need to give up a part of yourself. And the more of yourself that you're willing to give up, the more of yourself that will reveal itself within its truest form.
So true.
It's like truth in its essence.
Have you ever dosed 5 grams and closed blindfolded yourself for the whole time?
Yeah, I have. I was in Thailand. So I'd done Cambo. I was training over there on a jiu-jitsu camp for a month. At this point, I was doing FIFO in my life, so it was a pretty cool life back then. Like I was single and, 2 weeks working out in the oil and gas, and then 2 weeks flying, Japan, Thailand, fun, like just wherever, holidaying. And I'd taken some holidays and I was over in Thailand for a month. And I was on a jiu-jitsu camp and I'd done Cambo, so the 5 dots essentially through there where in the Amazon, like they tie the frog up, and essentially it secretes this certain type of product where then a facilitator or shaman will burn holes in you, and depending on your tolerance, like you have to drink like 3 liters of water beforehand. All of your glands and everything swell up, but it's not psychoactive. It's not psychoactive.
So what happened
on Cambo?
Yeah.
Maybe just a big realization. This is actually a month before COVID had hit in 2020. So I've only ever done the one Cambo ceremony, but a lot of people say like when you couple them up, so you can do like a week, 6 days off, another ceremony, 6 days. So you're doing, one over every 3 weeks. That's when you get the big realization. For me, it was just like this total awareness and acceptance of like, wow, like I'm in Thailand and I've created like a pretty good life for myself at this point, like I'm training, I'm eating good food, I'm happy in my life. And the facilitator said to me, would you like to do 5 grams like next week? I think you're ready. And I was explaining to her the story after I was living in North America for a couple of years. Before I'd come home, I flew down to Vegas for a week to go watch the UFC fights for UFC 200. I went and did with my roommate at the time. I was about 24 or 25 back then, 5 grams. And it was too much too soon. Far too much, far too soon. And it gave me a bit of an ass kicking because, like 2 years living in North America, all through the States, Central, South America, like we're partying a lot, So I wasn't ready to truly combine those worlds together yet. It was a little bit too soon. And by the time I'd gotten to Thailand, she had said, I think you're ready after the Cambo ceremony. I can feel it in your energy. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I think I am ready. And she's like, okay, we're going to put the blindfold on you and we'll have the meditation music going on in the background. We'll set the intention. They sage the room.
What was your experience like?
I've actually got part of it on film, which is pretty funny. Yeah, she actually videoed, I think, like going into it. But it's hard to put into words, like because every ceremony and every journey is so different. Like I look back to every ceremony, every journey I've ever been on, which is a lot now. It's like they all teach me valuable lessons at that point in my life. It's like you always get what you need. Yeah, you always get what you need. I'm going through a bit of a transformational process at the moment. So the hair after 11 years is coming off in 2 weeks. Yeah, shaving the beard. Going out bush next week for 4 days by myself. So that's going to be pretty cool. But
what are you doing? Just on your own or hunting or anything?
No hunting. On my own, just solitude by the creek.
Yeah.
I've got this epic spot. Essentially just time to myself. Yeah, it's been a big couple of years, man. Like it's been a big few years, I think, like on this journey. Yeah. I think I just need to take like a few days just to be and ever since like leaving my job and so taking that initial risk of doing yoga teach training, then I've finished my 3 years of CHEK now, becoming a CHEK practitioner. Now I'm studying through anatomy train, so I'm certified to do 3 series body work through them, and it's just I think after a while you need a little bit of time to recoup and that's okay. So that's what I'm asking for, and no doubt that's what I'll get. But back to back to the mushrooms in Thailand, it was like, out of all the experiences I've ever been on, that's the one that was most beautiful to me and most symbolic, because that was the one that sent me on the journey. Yeah. After I'd gotten back from Peru sitting with ayahuasca, it took me about a full year to actually fully integrate everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, a full year. And a lot of people, I think like, you go on these little spiritual excursions and then you just change your life next week. It's like, fuck, man. Do you know how hard it is to like change aspects of ourselves?
Because you have to then integrate it to our life. And it's so easy when you're high to go, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh, that's so easy. But once you actually have to bring in the discipline and all the principles we spoke about.
Fully. You have to put it into action. Yeah. It's like you're called to action. There's too many people when I was traveling the world, living at backpackers and here, there and everywhere. They're too up here. They're not grounded in reality. It's like, that's cool, man. You've gone and seen, but what are you doing with that information now?
When I first did ayahuasca, it actually put me off it because everyone there was just like, oh yeah, man, we did a ceremony last week and they're talking about, what's the tobacco thing you smoke?
Rapé. Oh, you smoke?
Rapé. No, the one you put up your nose.
Put up your nose, yeah, rapé. Yeah.
And then, that it was like it was a drug for them. It was like, yeah, come do this, and it's like really good for grounding. I'm like, I don't think you're grounded.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like, it was like they were there to have the ayahuasca drug experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Not I don't know. Even the next time it was a different place, and it was a 2-day ceremony, and I got more out of it, but I still kind of was like, I can eat 5 grams on my own and sit on the beach and I'll get more out of it.
Literally. Yeah, literally. It's a massive, I think it's well, when you talk to shamans over there, right, it's like they say that's one of the biggest pillars. It's like, it's not about actually going and doing, it's actually the integrating afterwards. It's like, that's the biggest thing. Like you're experiencing like one of the most psychoactive plants in the world, especially like when you go to, where did you do your ayahuasca ceremony?
Past
Nusa, okay. Because that's the only thing that I say to people is like, Peru within itself is like the motherland, right?
Yeah.
So it's like when you go to the Sacred Valley and when you go to the Amazon, it's like it's an energetic container. Like you feel that it's different. Like it's different. It's a hell of an experience. Like it's a hell of a ride.
I did the Heroes journey once on my own. I didn't do the full 5 hours because I went to the beach, watched the sunset, and then I just kind of shut my eyes for like the next 3 hours, I think. And it was definitely the best. I remember I was just laying on the beach crying about something. I can't remember what it is right now. But
yeah. Do you remember, what was the process with you? Did you pick the mushrooms yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think I made a tea.
Yeah, made a mushroom tea. Yeah. And that's how you know it's generally quite potent as well. Like when you drink it, it's, I think because your gut doesn't have to, like digest it, essentially it's just liquid form. So it's just coming straight through. That was the experience that I was talking about when I was over in Canada, where it was like it was like 12 grams between myself and my friend. And it was 20 minutes. And I remember looking in the mirror, my eyes were like this. And I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, we're on. And then, just too much too soon. But for you, would you say, because it's funny, man, like when you talk to people about psychedelics, like most people rate it within, I'm not a parent, but people talk about it to the same extent of like, it's the same spiritual experiences as like, having their first child. Like it's massive.
I would say things that have like impacted my life the most, like early stages would have been Zenko and yoga and that, but also mushrooms.
Yeah.
And then later on it was definitely Vipassana.
Yeah.
But then mushrooms again.
Yeah. Such a similar experience.
Yeah. But it's always integrated. Like the one, like Vipassana, obviously you go deep within yourself, but it's different. You can't, like people try and correlate meditation and psychedelic experience. It's completely different, I think. Like you don't really hallucinate when you're meditating.
Yeah, definitely. Back to the yoga for a second, did you ever have the inkling to do your yoga teacher training under Lauren?
Not really. I had a mate who did it. I think he did it under her. I didn't because I knew I never wanted to teach it. So I was going going like 7 days a week. Right,
yeah. So you were living, you were living and breathing it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I remember the 28-day challenges she had.
Yeah, definitely. Like, see how many yoga classes you can get in that period of time. You know what's funny though, man? Like most people that go through their yoga teacher training, it's actually just for them. It's not so they can teach. I would say out of the 26 people that we had in the class, it was like I could probably name on one hand like the amount of people that actually went and taught. Like most people actually just did it for themselves.
I guess I was heading down to the Gold Coast after that. I knew I was going to study architecture, so I didn't. It wasn't really on my radar to study anything else.
Yeah, that's fair, man.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What about back then? Did you have like certain teachers that you were drawn to in terms of like Lauren would have been? Yeah.
Well, I mean, online ones or like Alan Watson's, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like or even at the studio, you know.
Teachers, like yoga teachers. Yeah. I think you meant spiritual teachers.
Well, both. Yeah.
Oh, who was it? There was, I think, was it Sue? She a yin teacher?
Yeah. So she's still doing a bit of teaching.
Yeah. I can't really remember, but I remember just liking Lauren because like I'd spend the time afterwards, after class, talking to her about like a question would come up yoga and. You know, she was like the mentor of yoga, so I'd just ask her. You know what I mean?
She did that, man. She just did that for so many people. It's like she just gave her time willingly. Yeah. You know, so willingly. Like, and same thing for me. So many times, you know, I'd be in one of her classes, and the class would finish, and it would be like her and Ryan, which is like her partner who now owns Zenko, and myself, and an hour would go by and we'd just be talking about anything. Yeah. And you realise she was actually just like a life coach in its purest form, you know, but just not selling it.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I called her about it. I can't remember. I've called her about a few things like during those like few years after I left Zenko. Like just like some problem would come up with something, and I remember I think it was actually a relationship thing because she had the whole thing with her husband who moved back to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And then I remember her saying something, and then it just kind of triggered when I went through a breakup or something. I called her for a chat, and
she was just so giving with her time. I swear to God, man, it's like I think about it all the time, but like I literally traveled the world in my 20s, right? Like I met thousands of men and women, and I never met anyone like Lauren.
Yeah.
I never met anyone like Lauren. Like she was... Yeah, I remember when the news hit, I remember one of the senior teachers called me. I was at Corrective. We were putting up some lights, and it was just like the whole world had come down. Yeah, like the whole world had come down. And even the energy, like at the private funeral, it was just different. It was just different. It's like you just don't meet too many people that leave that type of mark on other people and on their community. It's like she did her life justice.
She definitely had an impact on the community, I'd say.
Like just everyone knew her.
You know Charlie as well, don't you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So she did the full program under me. So she was working with me for about 3 months. Yeah, I think actually just before she jumped on the potty as well.
She came on, it wasn't in this studio, but yeah. I remember we spoke about the pill, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, old school. So yeah, no, she's a legend.
I want to hear the integration with CHEK now.
Oh yeah. With yoga and CHEK, right. So I was still teaching yoga right up until about 2 months ago. But my rib really set me back. Like once the rib injury happened with jiu-jitsu, I'd stopped practicing. I literally just couldn't. Even just doing a standard like Suncell A, it was too much extension for that part of the cartilage at that point. When I first started studying CHEK, the idea for me was... My intention behind doing yoga teacher training was clearly to become a yoga teacher. My intention behind the CHEK Institute or studying CHEK for 3 years was never to become a CHEK practitioner. It was just for myself. Yeah. I ended up tying the two worlds together just due to opportunity. When Jake and Cal were expanding Corrective into the new facility at Kawana, it was like, well, how can I say no? So I was already teaching yoga, and I was about a year in at that stage, and I was like, fuck, okay, so I've not only got to teach yoga, I've got to teach people about themselves, because that's the biggest gift that we really give people. I think when they come in and see us, it's like, you're really just teaching people about themselves. So how corrective holistic exercise kinesiology really ties into yoga is, for me, yoga is like the first step. So when people first come to see us after we give them an initial assessment, it's like, where are they flexibility wise? Do they have the flexibility to create stability within a particular joint? Like I was saying before, where most people that, and I have a lot of yoga people that come in and see me now, where most people come unstuck is they just stay at the yoga part. They just stay at the flexibility, the stretching part. Yeah. They need to go so far beyond that. Yeah, it's like the first phase. It took me a very long time to work that out, that like human beings, where there's 6 primal patterns. So an individual needs the ability to push, pull, bend, lunge, twist, squat, and gait. And if they can't do that, that's when problems arise. So it's like, you think of the average person now, man, it's like we sit too much, we drink fucking tap water. Most people are on their phones until 11 o'clock at night. We're not getting enough sunlight. It's like the list goes on. So everything that we currently do, it really ties back to nature, and it ties back to like the individual in its purest form. It's like organic food, getting 8 hours sleep. Like they're like non-negotiable universal principles. That's the way that I explain it to people. And so I've been doing that now for the last couple of years, and the last 12 months I've been tying more of the anatomy train. So they're like fascial slings that essentially like govern and dictate the body's movement. So we have, like, if I use superficial backline, for instance, it's like it's fascia that starts at plantar fascia, the bottom of our foot, runs off gastroc and soleus, which is back of the calf, back of the hamstring, upper rector spinae, suboccipitals, and then finishes at epicranial at the top of the head. So it really shows in these dissections that Thomas Myers has done, it shows the interconnectedness of the body. So now, I guess, like, because I am my business in some sense, like when people come and see me, it's like I try and decide what hat I need to wear to best suit them as to like why they're paying me. So yeah, I've really been diving into like the hands-on work as well. I've been getting heaps of results with that type of modality. It's a joint effort, I guess you'd say, where it's like I'm feeling the tissue and I'm feeling certain knots and adhesions in that part of the person. But it's not just a knot, it's not just an adhesion. It's like that's part of the individual's unconscious, and they need to get that out so they can be liberated free, if that makes sense. And is
that sort of kinesiology, or?
I wouldn't say, because in the US it's a different form of kinesiology. They more so do like muscle testing. Yeah. It's more so like myofascial release techniques, right, I guess you would say. Yeah, which is like full body. Like when people come in. So
it's not emotional storage.
It's not, but I don't believe you can have a posture without a related emotion involved. Yeah, I believe the two are too interlinked. It's like I can't treat the physical without treating the mental and emotional. I can't treat the spiritual without. It's like all of the 4 beings of wellness, they all really tie in together. It's like that is the person. Yeah, and that's why it's like, I think what we're currently doing, it's going to be such a big thing in the next 10, 15 years, because like, where do you go for that type of work? It's not really heard of. Like, I'd done my knees and things at jiu-jitsu, and I'd gone and seen the top physios and specialists and everyone under the sun, and no one had spoken to me about water, collagen, bone broth, just like basic principles, and they're just lost. So
could you do anything about your rib with what you know, or not really?
No, I actually couldn't. Yeah. And that's hard for me to say. Like I rehab people for a living, and it's like, I couldn't even help myself. Yeah. I couldn't even help myself because it was time. Yeah. The universe was saying to you, you must sit still. Yeah, and you will sit still, and that's what I had to do. And it's cool now, man, because it's like it taught me empathy. Like it taught me the ability to relate more to clients. Like when I have clients coming in now with, maybe they've got a disc bulge, spine issues, knee, shoulder, hip, whatever it is under the sun, neck. It's like I've been through that. You know what I mean? Like I've been through that long, torturous journey of what it's like to sit still when you feel as though you're never going to get out of it. Yeah, you feel as though you're never going to get out of it. So, yeah, it's been cool. It's I'm definitely on the other side of it now. So,
That's good. Till next comp.
Till next comp, yeah. Well, I'm actually due for, we'll see what ends up happening, but I'm 4-stripe purple now, so it's brown belt's next, whether that's end of this year or next year, whenever it is. It's like, yeah, it's a promise that I made to myself when I was a 17-year-old boy, and it's like I have to stick to it. Like I won't die until I get my black belt. I can't quit. It's I'm too far in now. Yeah, I'm too far in.
Would you say you're over halfway, or would you say the last part's the...
Yeah, I'm well over halfway. Yeah, well over halfway. Because they pretty much say by the time you get your purple belt, most people say getting your purple belt's really the hardest belt, because that's the belt that you go and discover yourself. That's where it's like you trial the new techniques. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not quite beating the brown belts and the black belts, but, maybe you're mopping the floor with the blue belts and the white belts. So it's like you're in that intermediate phase. Like I'm at the end of my purple belt now, and, I do really well against other purple belts, but that's time on the mats also. It's like I'm devoted. Like I just think a lot of the time, like it's hard to, like I live and breathe all of these holistic principles. So it's like that translates directly to the mat. It's like if I'm drinking clean water, I'm thinking clearly, because if you think of jiu-jitsu, it's just a game of chess at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's just a game of chess. So
you play chess?
I do. Remember we played?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're still playing?
I am. Yeah, heaps now actually. Heaps. Yeah. We played almost daily in the gym just to either buy time, connect with each other. It just keeps you thinking and keeps you guessing. Yeah, it's almost like there's been a chess resurgence. Yeah, like in the last 12 months. It's like more people are playing like now than ever.
Yeah.
But I purposely haven't logged on online and everything like that and got a rating, because I just think, fuck, I'll be on that thing like constantly.
That's me.
Is that you? Yeah.
Every night or when I get home, I just want to just relax and play fucking chess. But you know what I've noticed? I noticed if I play in the mornings, I'll win. If I play at night time, I fucking lose all the time, because I'm just tired and like end of the day and I don't think straight.
I don't know about you, but when I lose, well, of course it pisses you off, right? But it's almost like, fuck, I want revenge. And then so I'll play even shitter the next game and then shitter the game after. And it's like, what am I doing? It's 8 o'clock at night and I'm ready to grab my phone and throw it across the beach. And here I am trying to calm down. Telling all my clients, get off your phone by 7 o'clock, put it on airplane mode and put it in another room,
You're not sleeping over CHEK, mate.
No, not at all.
Good journey. I didn't actually expect half that stuff to come out of your mouth. So
I didn't either, man. I didn't either. I think it's like the power of conversation, right? Yeah. I think that's what we said before we started. It's like, let's just see where today goes.
Well, I probably have heard, but I didn't really realize the connection with Lauren. I thought you did yoga and you just went and worked there. I didn't realize you learnt under Lauren.
Yeah, I learnt directly under Lauren. Yeah, which is just... Yeah, it's. I guess it's just something I'll never forget. Like I was, extremely, extremely close to her. Very close to her. I spent a lot of time with her, and particularly her final 2 years on Earth. So feel special to have had that experience.
Do you still keep in contact with the family?
Whenever I see Ryan and the girls, absolutely. Yeah. But not as much. Yeah. I guess like life, like in some sense, like it goes on, right?
Yeah.
I was teaching at another studio as well. I don't know if... It's hard for me to say because I spent so much time in that world and like yoga was my life for so long. But I don't know if I'll go back to it now. Yeah. Like I feel as though my life has moved beyond that and I'm okay and I've come into acceptance of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a long period of time it was like I was, taking on all of these clients, doing the anatomy train stuff, in the yoga space. And in the CHEK system, we say to people, you're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Like, where are you putting your energy? It's like there's a description when you go and do HLC2 under Joe Rushton where it's like the river of life. And it's like, well, you've got your social life, relationships, family, friends, and then at the end of the river and there's nothing left. And so it's like the description that the picture is really trying to tell you is that choose wisely with where you would like to spend your time. So I can't say never. I think what I'm more drawn to, if I'm honest, is going and doing my 300 hours in India at some point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, really drawn to that.
Is that another 300?
Yeah.
Or you get,
Yeah, so that's another 300. So I've done my advanced training through yoga teach training as well, which was incredible. Because after I finished, I just thought I just wanted to keep keep the learning, keep the information coming in. But yeah, I think that's probably next. I think like in the coming years, I'm not sure when. I just don't know if I'll teach again. I feel as though that I've had that experience. Yeah, I've had that experience. And what you get paid, and not that it's never about fucking money, okay? It's not like you don't become a yoga teacher for money. It's like you do it for all of the other benefits of like guiding people and, you know, everything like you were saying before, like, you know, you didn't pay Lauren for those conversations. She just did it out of the goodness of her heart. You put a lot of time and energy and effort into like preparing for a class, trying to work out, okay, how many students have I got in the room? What, you know, where's their level at with where I can guide the class? What's the theme of the class? So tying back into like, you know, the yamas and niyams, and that's only one element that we can draw upon. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of time, energy and effort that goes into it. And I can't see myself going back to that anytime soon. And I'm cool with that because it's like, I had that experience, you know?
I haven't gone back to yoga, not for any particular reason. I still do my, you know, I know different poses and I just do them from time to time, but it's not really like in a flow or anything. But yeah, I feel like it stepped me into meditation and then, what was your question?
I was just about to say, what was your decision to leave yoga?
Oh, I think it was just when I moved to Goldie. Moved to the Gold Coast, I had a studio, I didn't really like it that I went to, and then I just got busy. Yeah. Came back and I did sign back up. It's a Zenko Blah Blah.
Yeah.
The whole studio, actually, Pottery Studio, all had a membership there.
Cool.
When they first opened.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I used to live near Kawana too, and it's just things like that. Like, it's like I move out of Nambour and Jiu-Jitsu then changes.
Badina was a vibe, man.
Yeah.
Badina was a vibe. It's like the amount of people that I've met on the Sunshine Coast, because that was Zenko's first studio as well. And so many original yoga teachers like come through there. I don't know, it just had a certain energy to it. Yeah. I taught my first class in that studio as well.
Yeah, cool.
Maybe that's why. So
yeah. I think I went to ask it earlier. So you hadn't really meditated before yoga. But if you say I'm one of your clients and I come in and you can tell I'm a highly stressed person that doesn't meditate, but I'm also scared to, you know, sit with myself or, you know, I don't know what it'll be like. So, you know, people are intimidated by meditation.
They are.
It's not something that I mean, I suppose if I think back, I probably was originally intimidated, but then as you go through the process and you stop kind of talking to people who are also not meditating, at that, like, you just don't bring the conversation up. You forget that people are intimidated by it. And I think that's what this whole podcast and the journal that we have is, you know, find stillness in all areas of your life, which is essentially what you're teaching. I think the whole journal that we created with Stillness Every Day was, you know, to integrate or to begin your journey of meditation, because there's, you know, just daily gratitude and just writing. I think writing actually was one of the main things last year that I did a lot of. That definitely helped me, and especially, you know, you have a trip, and I don't know if you've ever written when you're on mushrooms. It's like they're not together. Actually, what I did once is I voice recorded it, and it just
voice recording might be a little bit better.
But we're getting off topic. What would you say you would recommend to someone who wants to start meditation but they're afraid of it?
Start with candlelight meditation. Start with your eyes open. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Start where you can. If it's 30 seconds a day, start with 30 seconds a day. Yep. If it's in the company of other people because you're too afraid to shut your eyes and go within, then so be it. Start there. Start where you can, but start.
But what would you suggest they do, like, in your meditation? What would be a meditation you would begin with if you're a beginner?
Counting, because everyone can count.
That's true.
Yeah, counting. Just observe the breath. Just put on a soundtrack. Go to a place that you love, the beach, certain part in nature, a park, a bedroom in your house, maybe the patio outside. Have your dog, your cat present. Anywhere where you find comfort before you go into the discomfort. That would be my tip.
I think counting is probably a good idea to concentrate your mind, because like, if you're thinking crazy, if you begin to count, or, you know, there's probably mantras that you can focus on your breath. I think doing things like this, you start to concentrate your mind to get the clutter out, and then the truth starts to come up. So I think it's a good idea. Opening your eyes is actually probably not a bad idea at the start, but eventually all these things are distractions in the end. So
they are.
You eventually want to shut your eyes, and you eventually not want to count because you're becoming reliant on the mantra, or you're becoming reliant on the counting or the visualizing, which is where at Vipassana we start with Anapana, which is observing the breath, because it's the one universal thing that Christians, Muslims, atheists all have in common is we all have the breath. So like you don't imagine you're God and I don't, count, and everyone's doing something different. We all have breath and we can all observe it to concentrate our mind.
Absolutely.
And then once you start to concentrate your mind, you start to then observe sensations arising in your body because your mind's quiet enough to then feel.
Absolutely. I love that. I just think at the end of the day, it's like you start where you can. And meditation as well, it's like it's difficult at the start. I've never met anyone who is like, that was easy. I'm going to do that again. And if they do say that, it's like, are they actually doing it correctly? Are they actually keeping their mind still?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the further you go into it, the more that it will eventually reward you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's just a connection to you. It's like it's just you in there. Like, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I see this a lot. Like I see this in actually a mate recently, like they go through a breakup and then you resort to drinking. It's like the drink is purely to escape what's going on inside.
Absolutely.
So you're prolonging the inevitable, or maybe you'll never deal with it. Maybe you'll just become, more and more and more reliant on the drink or whatever it is you're doing to distract yourself. Those initial cravings we spoke. It could be sex. Like maybe you just are addicted to sex, and then your way of dealing with that relationship is to go to the brothel or whatever. There's always that one thing that you're trying to get away from, and the more you suppress it and push it away with other stupid things, the longer it's going to be there and the less you can't. What was that thing you said where you have to get rid of something to open up new?
Oh, I'd have to. I was in the flow of the moment.
When your client wants to, like if you want to grow, you have to get rid of.
Oh, you have to let go.
You have to let go.
You have to leave what. Yeah, you have to leave what you know in search of what you don't.
Exactly. You have to leave your alcohol and just sit with whatever shit you've got to get rid of, work through it, and then abundance is created.
Absolutely. There's another saying for that as well. It's like the chickens always come home to roost. So the idea behind that is you either deal with the emotions now or you deal with the emotions later. Either way, you have to deal with the emotions. And that ties into like what I was saying before, where the only way out is through. Where it's like you must go through what it is you're feeling. Yeah. It's like we have this saying. I
thought it was I guess you got to go through, but the one I know is the only way out is in. You got to go in first, probably then to go through.
Yeah, that's another way to. Yeah, that's another way to put it as well. Yeah, that's another way to put it as well. It's just necessary, I think, in today's day and age for almost every human being. With like when I look around, I see like how anxious, how depressed, like where people are currently at. It's like just find 5 minutes a day. Just find 5 minutes a day to try and sit still and be, and you'll be surprised at how much you can grow from that type of experience.
Even breathing, I know I've got a few, I've forgotten what they are exactly, but on the meditation, when you scan on the journal, one of them's literally just breathing. I think you breathe slowly in and then you hold for just about as long as you can, and then you exhale and you hold on the exhale and just breathe in again, and you just keep holding for your maximum, your limits. And it's super relaxing because you're observing your breath, 2, you're seeing, you're expanding your lung capacity, and you're just holding, and you're conscious with your breath, so you're actually playing with it.
Well, we're only just starting to discover the power of the breath. I'm sure you've been into the space and seen the totem pole before, but essentially at the top, like when we're working with people, like the psyche, the soul, the dharma, like the person in its purest form sits at the top, and second on the totem pole is respiration or breathing. And so we often teach people 3 minutes without the breath, and this is a hierarchy of control. 3 minutes without the breath, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. So when people automatically try and change their life, it's like they go sign up and they try and get a gym membership, change their food, might change their water, but they don't change the relationship to their breath. So the first thing that we assess when you're coming in and seeing us, does the individual have the ability to use the diaphragm completely? I was learning in anatomy trains the other day. It's estimated that we only use 10% of our diaphragm.
Yeah, wow.
Do you know how crazy that is?
So how would you use more?
Fascially, you would have to untie or unstick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, any parts that are holding it together, and then you just teach the individual to breathe laterally, breathe posteriorly into the back of the ribs. Everyone has the capability to like breathe anteriorly, but it's like, can they breathe fully? If you imagine if you have like a balloon, instead of just it inflating at the front, can it inflate equally all around?
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. Everyone can try this at home.
I didn't know you could do that, but I do always play around with where the breath can go in my body.
2/3 into the belly, 1/3 into the chest.
Yeah. I just did, that's the reason I said 2 minutes late, because I was sitting in my car doing breathwork.
Really?
Because I got up, I was on site at 4, and then I drove 3 hours, and I was sitting there, I was like, fuck.
Oh, did you drive from up north today?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Yeah, big day.
I was like, fuck, I'm not hyped up for this.
Yeah.
I sat there, I did my breath, then I did some Wim Hof, and then I ran down here.
Yeah. Then you're good to go.
But that's it, right? Like, I was conscious that I wasn't feeling that good. Like, this is, if you're depressed or you're not feeling well because you didn't sleep last night because you're thinking about your ex or whatever, you can just change your state like that.
You can. Yeah, you can. And like, everyone has that capability and power, and it's fucking free.
Yeah, literally.
You know what I mean?
I went to buy a coffee, and I thought, by the time I go there, line up and come back, it'll be quicker for me to do breath work. So I sat in the car.
Literally. Yeah, literally. And it's something that you have within you at all times. Like, literally, it's like, just sit, be, and become observant. We have this thing, myself and my partner, we've been doing it for, would be well over a year now. It's like, clearly no cool white, downlights or anything in the house. It's just like lamps. I'm talking like mood lighting of a nighttime, candlelit dinner, because everything we try and do is sacred. It's like, try and make the small things sacred.
Sounds like our dinner.
In life.
Alicia, my partner's a yoga teacher as well.
Cool.
So maybe, I mean,
similar
what you explained is exactly what we...
Similar values, similar values. And what we do before each meal, it's like, sit up nice and tall in your chair like this. Yeah. Crown of the head shoots towards the ceiling. 3 deep breaths. Inhale through the nose. Exhale via the mouth. Two more times. In through the nose. Final time. That is how you become present with the food that is in front of you.
It also would probably help get your digestion system moving.
It does, man. It does. It allows you to drop in. How many times do we see people like eating lunch on the go, smashing brekkie and a coffee before they jump in the car and go fucking sit in traffic to their dead-end job that they hate to go be stressed all day? Bring everyday awareness and stillness into your life. That would be my number one recommendation.
I had to... The concreters gave me...
I'm laughing already and I don't even know the story.
He's like, can you go to the... can you go to shops for me? I was like, fuck. I thought he wanted batteries, because yesterday he said, but my laser goes flat during it. I'm like, I'm not fucking buying you batteries, because yesterday you said you should have got them when we talked about it. Anyway, he's like, no, I just want you to get me some pies for the boys and a 6-pack of V and... What are they called? I don't even remember what they were called. His 40-pack of smokes. I forgot they were. And then, I can't remember. Bond Street Classic, I think it was. And then they didn't have a 6-pack of Vs. I got 2 Vs instead. I got him a 10-pack of water and three wraps instead of the pies.
I love that thing that you put up the other day. It's like people that eat breakfast at the BP Servo.
Yeah, that was me this morning. I was buying it.
You guys okay?
Yeah.
Everything all right at home?
I was literally at the Servo buying them all breakfast. It was fucking like 5 a.m. And I felt like such an idiot because I didn't know all this, like, and I didn't even know what pie to order. I've never ordered a pie. Like, I just never bought a pie. So if they said buy pie, I'd just be standing there going, fucking what pie do I buy? Like,
all these different flavors that just aren't
like,
even food.
I need a blue V, and I'm like, green one. There's only a fucking green one here. It's like, it's a different world.
It's a different world, man. And it's nice on the other side. I'll say that much. Yeah.
But like, this is like, one of the guys went fishing, and he got big red emperor and a bunch of fish, and he's like, oh, we'll do a cook up. And I was like, yeah, sweet, whatever. Like, you can come round. So I cooked it all, and only he turned up out of the 5 or 6 of them. One of them was just like happy to go get a pie and stay there. And like, we have all this fresh reef fish. We had a sick meal last night, like just unlimited fish and octopus.
That's sick.
And he's come, and I was like, I can't believe they just still, because they were sleeping on site because they were pouring early. I'm like, I can't believe he's just down there when you could be eating all this fresh reef fish.
Not comparable in terms of life force energy. You know, like that's what sustains you for the following day. I think people lose that relationship over the course of time. Like, what you put in your mouth has a direct correlation to how it is you feel and how it is you interact with the world. Like, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to finish it. I think Jake said something on the end of the podcast last week. I was like, that's a great way to finish it. So we'll wrap it up at that. Thank you very much for coming on. It's awesome to see what you're doing at Corrective Culture. And yeah, Corrective, you guys are just going to continue to grow and change the world.
As you, my man.
Thank you.
Thank you.